It's Kale Casey here with the team from the Pacific Northwest Team 2, Type 1 team that came into the fire last night, transitioned with the Rocky Mountain team. Thanks to Dan Dallas for a great job. And ironically, I know people have asked about teams. I'm from Colorado, lived here 20 plus years, just moved to Alaska 3 years ago. So when I was a young fireline paramedic here, after the Salida Colorado Fire Camp training in 2007 that I took, Dan Dallas was an operations chief. And so Dan, really great to follow in your footsteps. I've been personally following the Cameron Peak Fire since it started. Hyde Park Fire was one of the pivotal moments in my career back in 2012, and I learned a lot about the fire activity in this area of Fort Collins. And even though I live on the western slope in Paonia and Lake City, I fell in love with this community, so we know what you've been going through. Ironically, when I moved to Alaska, we have fire scars that we live in, so sadly, we know what structural loss feels like, and I actually live in the black right now back home. Update on the fire, Cameron Peak, 64% contained. No, the snow didn't put the fire out. Acreage, 208,663 acres, and we have 1,800 folks working on it. For the East Troublesome, 4,346 acres. No, the fire didn't put it out either. I do have our operations chief, Kyle Cannon, coming in right now, and Kyle is just like all the other guys that you've seen over the last 6 teams, he's the guy who's going to give us the walk around the horn. And I want to first of all thank Kyle, because these guys have been trying to access. Normally you come to a fire and you drive up to the fire line and you can get all your situational awareness, and now there's 18 inches of snow.
Little tougher. So good morning, I'm Kyle Cannon, Operations Section Chief for Pacific Northwest Team 2. And so real quickly, right, you know, between the Rocky Mountain team and the snow, we're in pretty good shape coming into this fire. Instead of a hot handoff where there's a running fire, we need to pick it up and try to go right into structure protection. We've got a little bit of time to get our feet on the ground and get some situational awareness and figure out what we got. So with that in mind, you know, today the operation is really similar to what's been going on the last 2 days. We got a significant snow out there. We're really concerned about safely getting our folks into those areas to do a couple things. One, to assess, you know, whether we can get in or not to those areas that of concern. And then second, we know the effects of this snow on the fire. As things dry out, we'll know better where the snow was very effective, and we can perhaps put less energy into in places where we really need to focus and make sure that we're ready for that when it dries out. So that's kind of what we're doing today. So with that in mind, in the big picture, I think you've already heard it a number of times, but where we're headed, right, is north end of the fire in Branch 1. All that's still looking really good. That's going to be a patrol operation once we can get in there, as well as start looking at the suppression repair piece that needs to be done. There's a lot of work to do there. Coming around into Branch 2 on the east side of the fire, everything's looking very good in there as well. As you're aware, there's a couple of hot areas in Division Tango in here that we're going to be focused on when we can get in there and see how much good that snow did for us and what we need to do next. So we'll be keeping an eye on that. You know, coming around on the south side of the Cameron Peak Fire, there are some areas here where it's backing down towards the bottom, as well as this little place that moved out to the south and the east or the west there. We're going to be looking at that heavily, focusing on that to make sure that we can keep the fire as best we can out of Glen Haven and some of those other areas of concern. And then, you know, coming around down into the Thompson zone of the East Troublesome Fire outside of Estes Park to the west there, right? Everything that last Friday, I guess, was a real big day. They held it. The Rocky Mountain team did a really good job. Snow came in, and so that's definitely an area of focus for us, is to come in, add some more resources and some people, and see what we can do in there to secure that and keep the fire from moving to the east. So once we can get in and get access to the snow, we'll figure out what we need to do next and we'll move forward.
Okay, great. I got a couple questions for you, Kyle, so if you can stay on camera real quick. We had the community meeting last night, and thanks everybody who attended. We had 3,000 live viewers, tons of great questions. There are folks out there who truly believe that the firefighters are superhuman enough to be able to work in 5-degree weather with pumps and hose and engines running up here, and why not go attack the fire when it's got snow on it. And having been out there for 500 or 600 days as a fireline medic back in my first part of my career, I know that even on 50 and 40 and 30-degree days, it can be rough, let alone 5 and 10. And
yeah, I mean, I focused a lot on access, right, and road conditions and getting in there, and that's certainly a problem, right? Especially, you know, most of the vehicles are not really focused on snow travel normally during fire season, so you know that's some of the challenges we had. But certainly, Kale points out, you know, anything working with water once you get below 32, right? So there are problems with that, with our hose systems, with our engine systems, all that stuff. And then, of course, I'm sure you guys are fully aware of hypothermia and what that looks like and some of the challenges there. So, you know, We've got folks ready to move when we can. Certainly the snow has given us a really good opportunity to, one, get our feet on the ground like I mentioned, but also I'm sure it's done a lot of good work on the fire as this melts. That's going to help us greatly as things cool out. And then our big concern is what's left out there, where the problem areas, and we'll be focusing on those as we know the effects of the snow.
Great, and you'll be coming in, or another option should be coming in every day, so this will stay consistent,
Correct.
Right?
Yes.
So we'll have Kyle for the next few days, and then we'll swap out with some other ops folks. We do want to get people different looks at the fire, so once it does melt, Kyle won't always be here at 8:30, but we do thank you for coming in today. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Of course. And now we have Dan Byrd. Dan Byrd's from the National Weather Service. Dan's one of the great incident meteorologists. That's called an IMET, I-M-E-T. So now we're into the break it down part of fire where we've been looking at the questions and concerns. We know folks have all sorts of winter weather concerns and what have you, and we just want to make sure that we're having a good idea of how much snow fell on the fire, how much water equivalent that is, and then what our outlook is for the next 10 or so days. Dan?
All right. So Saturday night through Sunday morning, generally 15 to 20 inches fell from the Crystal Lakes, Red Feather area down to Estes into the west. So about 15 to 20 inches in general. Obviously there were areas that saw more, and there were areas that saw a little bit less than that amount, but just overall is what was seen there. And as you go further east, the amounts were a little bit lighter. As you go over here to Division Victor uniform, generally about 8 to 12 inches. And then as you get to a little bit further east to Fort Collins, Loveland area, about 6 to 11 inches through this region here. Water equivalent, over the highest amounts were going to be over the higher terrain. So they saw anywhere from about an inch and a quarter of water equivalents there. And then as you go further east, maybe 3/4 to an inch here, and then more like about a half inch to an inch of water equivalent as you get further to the east.
Okay, real quick, this is the break it down part, because I know folks got briefed last night at the community virtual meeting about how quickly this melts off and at what temperature and under what condition determines how much of that water makes it into the soil, the grasses, the heavy trees, correct? So you've been saying we have about an inch to an inch and a quarter or so of water equivalent, but that's under a best case scenario of melting at a moderate speed to get into the 1,000-hour fuels, the big heavy trees which are going to hold this fire, which is why Colorado has really rough late fire seasons, right? These trees hold this heat, and we saw this in 2017 in Estes when the fire ripped in December. So if it's a really warm, which we don't necessarily, do we have the conditions for the right melt off, I guess is my question?
Well, this is nothing like what you saw earlier in the fall. The temperatures, I would say, over the next week or so are going to gradually warm today, and by this weekend, up over the higher elevations, you'll see temperatures up in the mid-50s, and the overnight lows will still be close to freezing. There's some potential late in the weekend. As we get into early next week, though, the temperatures may be pushing 60 degrees out over much of the fire, so that may promote a little bit more melting as we get into the weekend and early next week. After talking with our National Weather Service office, it really looks like the true melting will begin over the weekend and maybe into next week. And there's some potential, especially on the south-facing slopes that face the sun, that most of the snow will be gone maybe after November 6th or so. That's kind of the estimate right now, because we're not going to see any precipitation probably for the next at least 10 to 12 days.
So then that will moderate, I know you're not a fire behavior analyst, but that should moderate our fire behavior for a little while now, right?
Oh yeah, it should.
Now, does that mean that the fire's out?
Obviously not.
No. Does it? Now, I know folks have talked about season-ending event. This does not qualify in any way, shape, or form as a season-ending event. Now, were we hopeful on Labor Day when we were on the Grizzly Creek fire, and the folks who live here for the Cameron Peak saw that snow, and we thought, okay, great, Labor Day snow, this is going to really help Colorado? Well, all of us who live here and who have been here for a long time, let's go back to 2001 when we had warm November, and I remember living up in 9,000 feet in Colorado and Rico. November 25th, we got 2 feet of snow, but the day before was 60 degrees and dry, right? The ski areas had no snow. So we know that this happens here, right? We know that. So the snow isn't going to put it out. Eventually, boots on the ground are going to put out the trouble areas, contain them, and then hopefully we do get some more precip here, right?
Yeah, it's inevitable as you get into December and January.
Yeah,
we'll see some more precip, but you got a long ways to go.
That's our
until
expectation.
we get there. Yeah.
So nobody's letting their guard down.
Yeah.
This team's going to be here for you, working our tails off every single day. We know what this means to you. We know how much people have been impacted. The structure assessment groups are going to come in today and come down the road. They've been dealing with that snow, Dan, and they have to chain up and they have to deal with getting into places. But we're going to have more Larimer County structure assessments in Cedar, Storm, and the Retreat in Glen Haven. They have announced structure count. I believe it's 434 for mainly the Crystal area. Devastating numbers. Our hearts go out to everybody. I remember in Hyde Park when our firefighters were losing their homes, and it happens on every incident of this magnitude that the whole family is impacted, whether you're a civilian, whether you're a firefighter, whether you're a relative who loves coming to Estes or coming to the Front Range, what have you. Everybody's impacted in different ways. Thanks for giving us the outlook that we're going to have at least a chance to maybe get some boots in there. If it kept snowing forever, that'd be great, because it maybe would get to a season ending. Yeah. But since it's not going to, now we kind of need it to warm up a bit so we can get in there,
do some work,
get the pumps thawed out, get all the hose lays working again, get everything dialed, right?
Yeah.
Get back there. Okay, thanks, Dan.
No problem.
Appreciate it. So reminder, all of the ways you've been getting information stay the same. The INSEE web page stays the same. The story map is excellent and is updated every day on the left with a nice column with an update. Our phone numbers for Larimer County, for the Joint Information Center, for the fire information, all stay the same. Ours is 970-541-1008. All the website that you've been following, that NOCO alert is excellent. It has on the front page right there, you can see the mandatory and voluntary zones. Yesterday, Larimer County moved the outer area into voluntary. There's still mandatories out there. There will be some escorts later in the week. So if you're a structure owner who's been impacted, hopefully by now you've been in touch with Larimer County. If you haven't, please do. Again, they're going to do more assessments today. They don't know exactly how long it was going to take. I talked to Joe and Justin last night for a while. They were hoping to get as much done as they could today. And again, the sheriff yesterday apologized last night for the homeowners in the Crystal area who were notified by their neighbors of structure loss. That was not his intent. With the freezing weather, it just complicates everything so much. And again, the sheriff wanted to pass on he takes responsibility for that, and he passes on. In this world of fire, we call it the Green Pants Nation, neighbors helping neighbors. We've seen that since I've been following the fire for 74 days. This community is helping each other out. They're helping each other understand evacuation levels. They're helping each other understand fire behavior, operation principles. We appreciate that. Keep that up. You're part of our Green Pants Nation. And we also wanted to just remind you that we will be doing the community meetings Wednesday night, 7:30, Friday night, 7:30. All the Facebook stuff stays the same, except for we've added this live feature. We can't necessarily answer all of the 500, 600, 700 comments that come through each feed. We want you to stay engaged, but we will be looking at all those comments, trying to answer the big ones that we can, the most important ones, and then getting your feedback into this forum tomorrow morning so I can get a subject matter expert like Dan to give you the next bit of information you need that's beyond operations. Operations is going to sound a little bit like a broken record at this point in the fire. The running and gunning is gone with the snow, thank God for now. But that means when it ever gets to this point, operations is going to come in every day and they're going to tell you, okay, well, we're still waiting to backhaul this hose up here, and we're still working on this section and this section. That's going to be what they do, and we'll have them address that. But we'll also go into, for example, how much snow will it take? We'll get the fire behavior analyst in here. We'll get other folks in here to answer your questions. So thank you so much. Mike DeFries behind the camera. Any questions I can get to on broad level?
We just appreciate all the welcomes and stay safe out there. I think we covered a lot with weather and operations. I think we're good for now.
Okay, great.
We're also answering, obviously, right in the chat, too.
Great. And again, we want to thank Brenda Bowen, the Public Information Officer, outgoing, David Boyd, Bob Summerfield, the whole crew, Sarah Holstrom, and all the folks working behind the scenes. There's a big information group that's been working with all the Facebook messages, emails, questions, phone calls, the Joint Information Center in the county, all those volunteers who are working virtually, answering your questions about evacuation level and access. Thank you so much. In this world, we all know each other. All the 7 teams that have been in here know each other. We're all friends, we're colleagues, mentors, and what have you. So it's just an honor to be here. We want to serve you. Help us work hard for you by getting us your questions so we can answer them. Thanks so much, and we'll come back to you tomorrow morning.